Hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. A couple months ago, my wife got me a MacBook. I've been using Chromebooks for like 10 years, and so I'm, a little hesitant about having to learn how to use Apple systems, and I've largely only been using it so far for, the few books I've put out since getting it. But apparently, the powers that be are a little annoyed at me for not learning how to use iMovie to edit videos. And so, quite reluctantly, I guess here we are. So, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator, and welcome back to Total Party Skills! Yay! Today's episode is brought to you by the letter L. L stands for liar, by the way. Hasbro is really putting the spin out really hard, as I think we all can observe. They can't lose. Everything they do is right. The customers are wrong, unless it's the customers they want to impress, in which case they can do no harm. These are actually nothing unique to Hasbro. Most companies, political parties, world leadership in general, kind of defaults to gaslighting everyone just to maintain power and a sense of forward thrust narrative and all that other kind of stuff that I'm sure you've heard on the internet myriad of times. But I feel that this whole thing that's been going on with Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro is it's a good example of shining a light on something that is the real class gap in our society. And it has nothing to do with wage gaps or the amount of money people at the top are making versus the amount of money people are making at the bottom. The gap is a reality gap. The people at the top of the system are incredibly detached from reality. They're surrounded by echo chambers and yes men and positive reinforcement and contractual obligations that hold them to have to stick to certain lines. I mean, much of what makes a company an entity is its body is formed by contractual obligations of the employees, kind of a thing. And in aggregate, this creates this non-existent force that's holding all these people together on one sort of same task. And there's a lot of things in corporate philosophy where it's viewed as better to run your project into the ground and go bankrupt than it is to admit failure and just lose the money, because at least if you go bankrupt and fail, you can write it off. So there's reasons why they can't admit defeat or ever acknowledge the fact that they did something incredibly stupid and wrong, because, well, why would they keep their job then afterwards? If you made a horrible mistake on this sort of scale, why would anyone keep you in the business? So it has to be our fault, don't you see? And thus we have entered the age of the great gaslighting. And Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro and what we're experiencing in the TRPG community is just a slice of a much larger thing that's kind of starting to go on everywhere, where we're being asked, but we're being asked to ignore the things that we've seen for the last few years and just shut up to get along. And is that really the mood of the crowd? The people at the top of the pyramid are terrified of the people at the bottom of the pyramid, largely just because of historical knowledges of certain spasms that have happened in society from time to time. Spasms that arguably our society should have had, but not permitted to have because of the tightness of the control of the system and the continuous unspoken threat of military or police violence on anyone who steps too far out of line and all that sort of stuff. We're trapped, and that's the way they wanted us, so that we would just be nice, contained consumers that will forever keep buying Tide and watching Disney movies. But the instinctive mood of the population is to move beyond that, but we're being forced and kept in this kind of retrograde holding pattern forever. So I'm not really sure if there's a point to any of this. I'm largely just checking out the editing features on this computer because I want my wife to be happy with me so I can continue to live this extremely weird lifestyle I find myself living in. So I guess There's really nothing worth commenting on this. It's all just fairly obvious. People at the top aren't capable of understanding what the people of the bottom are like, and they've convinced themselves of all sorts of weird stuff in order to be able to, you know, justify what they're doing. And we're left holding the bag. So, I guess, until next time,
Stay waspinated.